Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. This episode is a previous recording of our live Ask a Professional Scrum Trainer series, where a live audience asks questions of professional Scrum trainers. We hope you enjoy this episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located today. I am Lindsay Velasina, and I will be your moderator today. Today is an Ask a PST session. So I am here with Mehdi Hoseini, based in the Netherlands, and he is here to answer all of your Scrum questions. So I hope that you brought some of the challenges your teams are facing so that we can help you through that. Okay, and who is Scrum.org? So we are the home of Scrum. We were founded in 2009 by Ken Schwaber, co-creator of Scrum, and we offer training and certification in professional Scrum. Our mission is to help people and teams solve complex problems. We do that through our training, certification, and ongoing learning. Ongoing learning is huge here at Scrum.org. There's so much to learn beyond the classroom and beyond getting a certification. So please be sure to continue your learning. You're obviously doing so by listening in today, but please check out all of the free resources on the Scrum.org website and just never stop learning. So with that, I will hand it over to Mehdi to introduce himself, and then we'll get started with the Q&A.
Yes, Lindsay, thank you very much. And thanks for having me here in this Q&A session. I have been working in the software industry for more than 20 years. First, I was a developer, and then it was 2013 that I got familiar with the Scrum and Agile world. Since then, I have been serving teams and companies mostly as a Scrum Master. And it was 2017 that I started teaching Scrum. And but I wasn't a PST at that time. I started my journey to be a PST, and it's now more than 1 year and a half that I am a PST, and I try to help people, teams, and organizations to use Scrum effectively. And to be honest, I love the Scrum world. I can say I'm a real citizen of the Scrum world. And more than that, I help people, specifically IT professionals, to build their professional identity, because at the end of the day, these are people who create Scrum teams. So we need to have a professional identity. Because of that, I have my own website here, professionalmindcoaching.com, to offer my services. And I'm really happy that I have this opportunity today to help people. Back to you, Lindsay.
Let's start with a very basic question here. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between a framework and a methodology? And why is Scrum a framework?
Yeah, that's a good question, Lindsay. As you mentioned, based on the official description, Scrum is a framework, not a methodology. But what is the real difference between these two concepts? When you have a framework, you have just a few boundaries, okay? And you have a lot of freedom in another part. Because of that, we say a Scrum is a framework. You have a lot of freedom when you want to, select your practices, context-based practices, method, techniques. And if you go through a Scrum guide, you don't see any prescription of methods, practices, and techniques, as I mentioned. For example, if you are developing a software product, a Scrum guide doesn't tell you, for example, you should have, using C# or Java to write your code. No, there isn't any type of these prescriptions. So you have a lot of freedom in your field. And if you go to the description of a Scrum guide, I think it is in page 3. It says Scrum is built upon by collective intelligence of the people using it. What does it mean, collective intelligence? We know that we have two parts, the mandatory parts and free part. In your free part, you select your practices and tools and techniques. So it is based on your context. Because of that, it is said that it is built based on, collective intelligence. On the other hand, about methodology not only has boundaries, but also has some prescriptions. For example, XP is a methodology. It prescribes, for example, you use pair programming, test-driven development, TDD, and these things. Does it mean, for example, a framework is better than a methodology or vice versa? No. Your context defines which one is better to use, okay? And as you see, you have a lot of freedom in the Scrum world. Okay, so this is just a framework. And one more thing that I love to add here is that many people call Agile methodology, while Agile is not a methodology. Agile is a mindset. And when we implement them, then we have either a framework or methodology. Hopefully, it makes the definitions transparent here.
That was great.
My pleasure. Shall we go to the question? I see that there are. Okay. How can I land a Scrum Master job without experience? Oh, okay. Every journey starts from a point. Guys, you just need to make a definite and committed decision. Then you will find your way. You just need to join a group, a team, or even you can start using in your current situation. Why not? Be courageous and start your journey. Wherever you are, you can start using it. Even if you say our context is not complex, that's okay. There are a lot of practices of a Scrum that you can use effectively. For example, developing your work or doing your work iteratively and deliver your results incrementally. It is a very, very powerful practice that you can use. Then you will see that you start collecting experience, and then step by step you move forward further, and you will see how we can connect with the essence of a Scrum Master. So my advice here is just start your journey. Yeah, that's it.
That's great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Right. So this next question, a little lengthy, so I am going to put it in the chat for the people who are here on the Zoom. Okay, so the question is, how do you as a Scrum Master or project manager share an estimated end-to-end project delivery timeline with the leadership once you have estimated product backlog items? The challenge here is that the end-to-end delivery can take months, so the granularity of requirements and dependencies within the teams is not crystal clear. Yeah. But the leadership requires a timeline to plan the go live and associated preparations, travel plans, etc.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very agile.
So let me explain. Guys, the best place that we can use a Scrum is in a complex environment. What does complexity mean here? Complex means you are in an environment that there are more unknowns than nouns. No? So it is obvious that you have a lot of unknowns in upfront. When you have this assumption based on your context, how can you define an exact timeline? Okay, let me give you an example. If you go back to the history of Instagram, it was in 2010 that two men started developing an application for check-in and check-out for, I don't know, swimming pools, entertainment clubs, restaurants, and these things. It was 2010, and as I mentioned, and it took them 1 year to develop the first version of their application, and it was just an iOS application. Unfortunately, after 1 year, they didn't get any traction from the market, but they learned something valuable. through that 1 year, they learned that people need to, to share their images, photos, or moments and these things. Based on those learnings, they decided to pivot their way. And they developed a new version. And then all of a sudden, they got a good traction. So imagine when they didn't know what they didn't know, how they could, put a plan, exact plan with dates and these things. The problem is that we want to map this new way of working, I mean Scrum, with the traditional way of working, while Scrum is a disruptive way of working. Please, if you want to use Scrum effectively, do not map it with the traditional way of working. Instead of answering your leaders with definite deadlines or timelines or these things, coach them, help them, teach them that we need to move through a transition of mindset to a place that we want to deal with complexity. So traditional way of working doesn't work here in this context. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. I hope
My
that
pleasure.
answered your question. Okay, so let's see. We're starting to get some more questions in here. I'm going to jump around a little bit in the list. So what is a recommended method for user story estimation when multiple different teams are working on a single product backlog?
The main intention behind estimation is not the final number that you get. Here again, we need a mindset shift. The main intention should be having effective conversation. The better conversation you have, the better understanding of user stories will be in the mind of developers. So if they are more probable to finish them in a better way, okay? So do not emphasize on the number that you get. But if it works for you, that's okay. There isn't any, prevention to not using it or something like this. But there are various ways, for example, relative estimation, absolute estimation, or fellow metrics estimation. They are deep conversation. But for complex problems, it's better you use relative estimation. I'm sure that most of you have heard about planning poker, which is a technique to estimate our user stories. But guys, we need to put our best commitment to deal with uncertainty. It doesn't matter if its name is 5 story points or 8 story points. It's just a number. And it's just a guess based on the knowingness that you have up to the point that you are estimating. Even just for your information, in a Scrum Guide, we don't have the name estimation. The keyword is used there is sizing, okay? So don't put your all energy to have accurate estimation. It doesn't make sense, accurate estimation. But if you want to do it, okay, it's better you use relative estimation. And as I mentioned, planning poker and other units of estimation, for example, story point, t-shirt sizing, and these things. So hopefully I answered your question, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that helps. Okay. So this question here that came in through the chat, I do trust that you please move this over to the Q&A just so that we capture it. But most job requirements today include loads of things outside of Agile. Have you noticed that, and what would your advice be, as most companies are insistent on mentioning Scrum while sticking to Waterfall?
Yeah, you are right. I agree. Unfortunately, this is the case that we are experiencing these days. In fact, they don't want to, relieve the traditional way of working. So usually they use Agile and Scrum as luxury, keywords, but still the essence of their way of working is traditional waterfall or other traditional way of working. But you know what? Nowadays, we know that our life and businesses are like an ever-changing environment. Every day, you see a lot of new products, new initiatives. For example, these days we have AI. Everywhere you see AI or the Web3, the semantic web, I mean, and you see that a lot of technologies emerged that can help us with a new way of working. So we need to think differently. I believe that our responsibility is helping people as a Scrum Master. I'm talking as a Scrum. Our responsibility for organizations is helping them to understand that they need this transition. Otherwise, they cannot be effective in the current environment of business because change is inevitable. So when we know that the natural attribute of current businesses is ever changing, so why do we stick to the traditional way of working? Does it work? Okay, stick it. But if it doesn't work, be courageous to start changing your mindset and go through new way of working. Why not? I know that based on my experience, if you use Scrum as a whole, and it's better to say professional Scrum, it would be really a game changer. But it's not easy. It needs dedication. And guys, just for your information, from my point of view, I can categorize organizations in two categories. Organizations that are interested in using a Scrum and organizations that are committed to using a Scrum. What is the difference? When an organization is interested in something, they do whatever that is convenient. But whenever an organization is committed to using a Scrum, they do whatever it demands, no matter what. There is a big difference between these two levels of being, guys. So you can help your organization to move through the state of being interested to the state that they are committed. Then you will see that they start using professional Scrum. It's a journey, so be patient, but consistent. You will be there.
That's great. Thank you. I hope that helps. This is a kind of a fun question. Do you use Scrum in your family?
Yeah, why not?
In your home life?
Yeah, yes.
Do you have some examples?
Yes, sure. Let me share a screen. I use it personally for my work. Just a moment. I use 1 week sprint, okay? And I started using it again, I think 6 years ago. Just a moment to share my screen here. Yes. My sprint number is 310. You see, guys? 310. So absolutely, it is effective. I use it. Why not? I know how valuable it is, how effective it is if you use it effectively. Just start using it. You just need to use the concept as it is. If you go to the last page of a Scrum, you will see a good sentence that it says it is immutable. No, so just use it as it is. Then you will see how it can help you even with your personal work. Why not?
Yeah, and there are some great examples on the Scrum.org website for this. There's a professional Scrum trainer used Scrum to help, I believe it was his daughter or niece or someone in his life build a bee house as a part of their school project. Chris Lucassen, a professional Scrum trainer at Scrum.org, posted a video about that. You can go check that out. There's also some great examples of people who have used it at home to help their family members manage ADHD and Asperger's. I'll drop some links in here. It's really interesting how you can, the different ways that you could use Scrum. There's also a blog that I wrote a few years ago. I'll share this as well, with a student who used it for her schoolwork and used it as a science project. So there's a lot of interesting examples. Scrum is such a simple framework. You could apply it to in so many different ways. So yeah, a great
That's
question.
cool. Yeah, Lindsay, thank you very much for sharing here. I didn't know some of them as well. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'll drop those links in a moment.
Yeah.
So was there a particular event or person that got you into Scrum, maybe? A little bit about you?
It was 2013 that I was working with a team and we were developing a software product. Okay. Unfortunately, we started using Waterfall approach. And to be honest, it was the only way that we knew to do our work. We went to a cave for 2 years. And after 2 years, when we came out, our client told us that they don't want our product. It was a terrible failure, to be honest. At that time, I lost a lot of money. I think at that time, if I convert it right now, it would be around $100,000. I lost it. And not only the money, I lost my time, my hope, my energy, and a lot of things. It was like the end of the world, to be honest. Because I invested a lot and I hope that it could be a great business, but it wasn't. So after that failure, I stopped for a while to investigate what the real problem was at that moment. And I realized that there are some, keywords or way of working, for example, Agile, Scrum, and I got familiar with these things. And once I got familiar with them, it was like, well, wow, why I didn't know these things while I had been in the software industry for around, I don't know, 12 years or 13 years or something like this at that time. Why I didn't know them. So I started reading them to see what they were. And, I saw that, wow, it can be my new career path still in the software industry, because I mentioned I really love software industry. And I said, yeah, Mehdi, you are a result of failure based on the traditional way of working. So now you need to make a definite decision that you want to change your way of working. And not only this one, but make a definite decision to help others to not fail based on their way of working. So to be honest, it was my turning point. Okay. Now, when I see the past, 10 years, I can say I'm proud of it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. So this question from Sarush, would you please describe the steps that would be faced when implementing the Scrum framework in an organization with the goal of establishing a psychological safety culture within a traditional setting?
Let me be honest here. The sentence and keywords that I see here, it seems that you're already accepting your traditional settings. Why? I think every effective, work starts with a powerful decision. So let's see, why do we want to use a Scrum? You need to have a strong why behind your work. Otherwise, it would be something that will be eaten by your, culture. And it's truly important. When you use your strong why, then your being would be completely different. I remember I had a conversation with Mr. Gunther Verin, and he explained me about his story when he started in his work in the Scrum world. And he said once, I don't know, around 20 years ago, he started in a company. They just had a project, or you can say a problem, and then they gathered around that problem and they used all the practices and principles of Agile and Scrum. Even at that time, they didn't call it a Scrum. And it gave them a strong why they wanted to be adaptive, okay? So here I would say, guys, let's make a definite decision collectively with your team in your organization that all of us are here, are present, that want to change our way of working. It already creates a lot of, freedom in your environment and remove a lot of barriers, resistance of your colleagues. So have you put energy to make that collective decision or not? Or it is just your decision? I believe that you should start attracting the attention of your colleagues in your organization and make a definite decision together that, yes, we want to use a new way of working. Then your way of moving forward would be more smooth compared to the time that you just want to do it by yourself. On the other hand, when you want to create psychological safety, guys, trust people and radiate authentic energy to them. They will read it, they will get it, they will feel it. And then because whenever you radiate this energy, in fact, they open their mind and start to follow you because they see it is important for you. So why not? Why shouldn't they follow you? Because you believe, you show your belief that this way of working can help our organization to deal with complexity. So I believe that everything starts with ourselves as a Scrum Master. If we want to be a great Scrum Master, and I always say, guys, there is $1 million question for you as a Scrum Masters. How do we inspire others to greatness? Ask yourself, are you in a place that you inspire your fellow colleagues to higher greatness or not? If your answer is no, don't move forward with your colleagues. Start with yourself first. Invest in yourself. And then if your investment is real, your fellow colleagues will see it and they will start accompanying you. Hopefully I answered your question, dear Sorush. And I know Mr. Sorush is one of my friends. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Welcome. I know that you've shared before, though, like your whole journey to become PST and why that was so valuable to you. Do you want to share a little color on that?
Yeah.
To show some of the positive things about becoming a PST?
Definitely.
Just briefly, because we have a lot of other questions here. But
okay.
I think it would be good to share some of that.
I'll do my best to be as short as possible. Okay. Guys, just for your information, it took me 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. It's a little bit long, but I'm proud of it because it was a learning journey and empowering journey. And I got 8 failures. I think that the persistence was my fuel to continue my work. And finally, I did it. Specifically, to be honest, the most challenging state was passing PSM3 with at least 90% score. And it took me 4 times. I took PSM3 exam 4 times, and finally I could manage it and get that score. But each time that I took that exam, I took it with a new level of awareness, new level of knowledge, and I was in a better place of mind, of mindset. So although I call them failures, but fundamentally they were not failures. They were points that helped me to be a better version of myself. So because of that, I say I'm proud of it. It took me 4 years, yes, but I experienced various types of, failures and these things. And now whenever I go to my classes, I mean PSM, PSMA, and these things, I can effectively help learners to understand the essence of a Scrum. I think it is because of the cost that I paid someday in the past based on my failures and learning journeys. So, guys, if you want to be in this journey in the Scrum world, put your best to experience all types of, failures or these things, because they will hone your knowledge, they will deepen your knowledge, and you will be a better version of yourself. Yeah, and if you're interested in challenging yourself to improve yourself, being a PST can be a great opportunity. Why not? You can start. And just for your information, if anyone needs any help from my side with this journey, if it is interesting for them, I'm here. You can contact me. I would be happy to help you. I'm done.
Hey, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right, I'm going to jump around a bit in the question list, just so that we hit as many as we can. So I'm going to drop this one into the chat so that everybody sees it as well here in the Zoom. So is a sprint goal always the top 3 objectives from the feature backlog, or in other words, a set of JIRA items that are achievable enough? A smart sprint goal is always the end result? An example would be helpful. So if you could share an example or two of a sprint goal, that would be great.
Okay, that's a good question. Guys, no, it shouldn't be, for example, as you mentioned, top 3 objectives from the feature backlog. No, it's not a good approach. Let me give you an example to understand the difference between a sprint goal and selected product backlog items, or the scope of the work. Guys, just for your information, the Scrum team is committed to the sprint goal, but flexible about the scope of the work. What does it mean? The example is this one. Imagine you are walking in a street, and suddenly you see one of your classmates from high school, for example. 20 years ago, you were in a high school. And you're really happy, you hug each other and these things, and you make a suggestion and say, hey, we can have a reunion for the next month, and we can invite other classmates to visit and meet each other after 20 years. What do you think? And your classmates say, yeah, that's a wonderful, suggestion. Let's do that. Okay. So then you, make an agreement about a famous restaurant in the downtown in your city. And you say, at that time, next month, we will be there. At that time, next month, after 30 days, around, I don't know, for example, 10 classmates gather in the center of the city, and they want to walk toward that restaurant. When they arrive there, they see, wow, the restaurant is closed, okay, because it is under repair. What do you do there then, guys? Do you cancel your reunion? Absolutely not. So probably you will make a new decision to go to another restaurant, for example, 100 meters at that side, or these things. You do not cancel your reunion. Here, visiting each other after 20 years is your sprint goal. But going to that restaurant is one of your PBIs, one of your product backlog items. So Whenever you see that one product backlog doesn't help you, you can remove it and go to another one and change your scope, helping you to achieve your sprint goal. And we have the same thing in the product development environment. Guys, a sprint goal should come from your desirement, and it shouldn't be related to how or the solutions that you want to implement them. You just want to be there, and to help you how you achieve that ultimate state, you need some states or vehicle, which are our product backlog items, just helping you to achieve your sprint goal. So then you select your PBIs from your product backlog. Because of that, we say always you should have an actionable product backlog. The keyword actionable. What does it mean, actionable? It means it should be cohesive on the top of the product backlog, supporting a single shared objective. And this is an art, guys. Let's be honest here. And your product owner can be a game changer in your environment, because having an actionable product backlog supports teams to move forward effectively toward higher levels of goals, for example, product goal. So keeping your product backlog cohesive and actionable, helping you to create reliable sprint goal based on your desirement. Hopefully it was helpful, my answer.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, this next question. How do you approach coaching teams to navigate complex organizational politics and conflicting stakeholder interests while maintaining the integrity of the Scrum framework?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, guys, when we Scrum Masters are together, we are in the bubble of our, peers who know the real value of a Scrum. But we don't have such a thing with other people, for example, with managers, specifically if they come from traditional, organizations. Here, our responsibility is to help them to understand why do we need to use a Scrum, okay? And the best, approach from my point of view is that to, help them to make a decision by themselves that they need to change. Guys, just for your information, people want to change. People don't want to be changed. So if you push them or force them, you will see resistance, okay? But if you help them to understand that they need to change by themselves, then you will see that they by themselves will start changes, okay? This is the best approach that you can use with this regard. Just as a practical answer here, why don't you try a workshop of understanding these things? Guys, do we have any political, things in our organization or not? Let's be transparent. Let's navigate it if we have, and then let's collectively make decisions how we can remove them from our organization. Because at the end of the day, if our organization is successful, we are successful. If it is a place of political behaviors, we will not be, successful. So this is the collective responsibility of all of us. Let's be transparent. Let's be honest. Trust each other and make the decision to move forward. As I mentioned, prepare and facilitate a workshop or session to navigate this one. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I hope that helps. Moving right along here. So how do you estimate epics and features, considering one epic has multiple features and one feature has multiple stories? Do we need to use the estimation techniques used for user story estimation?
To be honest, guys, estimation is not my favorite, concept. And as I mentioned in another question earlier, the main, intention behind estimation should not be the numbers that you are searching for, but the conversation. Usually, epics or features are, big expectations that you have from your product. And usually you plan them for your quarters or half a year or something like this. But again, I prefer to say, guys, instead of focusing on estimating your epics or feature, thinking of the goal, your desirement, where do you want to be? For example, if you start using quarterly product goal, for example, whenever you set that goal, the ultimate state that you want to be at the end of the quarter, it gives reason to your fellow colleagues to change their beingness, to show their best because they have a real reason and why to collaborate. And we have the same thing as well in the sprint. A sprint goal is like a glue tying all people together, developers together, to concentrate their energy toward a single objective. Imagine if you didn't have a sprint goal, then every single developer would work on an initiative, and you are not a team at all. You are just a group of people. And we have the same thing with the higher level of goals. I mean, product goal, which, includes epics, features, and this thing. So my request from you is this one. Guys, move your center of attention from numbers of estimations for your epics or features to the desirement as a goal, where you want to be. If you have a committed decision about the goal that you want to achieve, you will move mountain. It changes all your estimations that you did, okay? Whenever you are, coming from the estimation part, it comes from a passive, being, I should say. It's not proactive. But whenever you come from the end, I mean from the goal, it activates your mind to think differently, to be creative, to bring solutions, how we can move forward effectively, resulting us to achieve our goal. It's a completely different mindset, guys. Do not stick to estimation. This is my advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective. Thank you.
My
All right.
pleasure.
So this next question here, I'm going to drop it into the chat. Everyone here in the Zoom sees it. So if after some point in time, the customer is reverting back to Waterfall, is this a good practice? Usually not, no. As a Scrum Master, how can someone convince the customer to change back to Scrum? So if a team or customer, leadership, whoever reverts back to old practices prior to using Scrum, how do you get them to break those habits again, and be agile?
Okay, let me mention the why behind these two approaches. The first time that you get feedback from your customers and stakeholders in waterfall approach is at the end of the project, okay? But in a Scrum world, as you are working iteratively and deliver your work incrementally, you get feedback at the end of each iteration. Usually, even you can get feedback in the middle of your iterations or sprints. Why? Because every single sprint is a learning loop. And you need to close your learning loops. How? By creating a done increment, deliver it to your customers and stakeholders, and getting their feedback. Imagine after delivering your increment and getting feedback, you get aware that there is a deviation between what you have implemented and what was expected about the increment. Now it is just after one iteration and you have a lot of time to compensate it. While we don't have such an opportunity in waterfall approach, this is the real benefit of using a Scrum. Guys, just for your information, Scrum itself is a vehicle, not the destination. I have even recorded a video about that one. You can go to my YouTube channel to watch it. Our destination is to having an environment that can create value constantly and evaluate their progress throughout the way. So whatever you call it, Scrum or other, sayings, if they help you with this regard, use them. But we know that Scrum is well-shaped, well-structured, helping us to have constant inspection and adaptation and be aware just in time that we have any type of deviation. This is the main power of a Scrum, while we don't have such a thing with waterfall approach. And I mentioned, guys, I experienced both worlds, waterfall world and Scrum world. To be honest, even we should not compare them because the difference is huge here. Instead of just forcing your organization to come back again to a Scrum, just mention the value, the real value behind them. Then they will be aware of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So this next question here, so we might need some more information. So let's see. So how do you calculate capacity before sprint planning? Is any method accurate enough? Is leaving out Scrum events and taking an average of 8 hours equals one story point a good practice? So what have you seen with this?
Yeah, guys, you mentioned the capacity. It means that you want to know how much work you can pick for the sprint. So naturally, the first thing is the availability of your team members. Maybe you have some developers that want to have some days off and these things. So make it transparent first. And the second step is that your average amount of work that you could done previously, specifically an average of a few sprints to be aware that what is your real, performance of creating done increments. And it would be another input to your sprint planning. On the other hand, you mentioned the story point and mapping time and story point. I would not go for that one. Please do not map time and story point because it is completely context based. Okay, just use it as it is. I mean, whenever you want to use a story point, you just need to make an agreement about a base feature, which is completely simple, and you call it one. And then when you want to estimate another feature or user story or PBI, whatever you call it, then you just want to compare these two things to say how many times it is more difficult, more challenging, or needs more, effort in these things. So as you can see, both of them are the same type. So it is without any dimension of hours or these things. Imagine if you have a team of juniors, okay? And when they compare their feature with the base feature, okay, they will see a number of comparisons. And we have the same thing when you have a team of, senior developers, because they want also to compare these two things. It doesn't have any relation with, with time, and I don't advise it at all. try to use the story point as a comparison method. That's it. So imagine you have finished on average 20 story points in each sprint. Okay, for the upcoming sprint, imagine if all your developers are available, you should pick something around 20, 21, 19, 18, based on the type of PBIs that you have on top of your product backlog. So this is the process that we plan our sprint, but we need a good intention to work on ourselves to increase our capacity, our real capacity. For example, nowadays, on average, we can finish 20 story points. If we work on ourselves, if we improve our skill, our knowledge, probably after 6 months, it would be 25 story points each sprint. This is the real process of getting improved with this regard. Yeah, I am done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined us today. There were some really great questions. We did not get to all of them, but I will share them with Mehdi and we'll figure out a way to answer those. And thank you, Mehdi, so much for taking the time with us today. It is time for us to wrap up. I'm just going to share my screen again briefly. Okay, so so very quickly, I just want to remind you to stay connected with us. So in case you aren't aware, we do have forums at Scrum.org, which is another great place for you to bring your questions. So we encourage you to utilize that, as well as our social media channels. Scrum.org blog has a lot of great insights as well. And we do run webcasts pretty regularly, almost on a weekly basis lately. So please check those out at scrum.org/webcasts. The recording for today's session will be sent to you within 24 hours. It'll be available as a podcast. And yeah, so thank you for joining us today. And I hope you got a lot out of this, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you, Mehdi.
Yeah, thank you guys. And Lindsay, thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. Scrum on.